Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Head. I'm the Business Information Librarian at Mid-Continent Public Library. I work with the Square One Small Business Services team, and we put on programs for small businesses as well as meeting with folks one-on-one to help them with their business, do research, find new customers, or tackle whatever they want to tackle. We are still meeting with folks during this time of social isolation, social distancing. So if you would like to schedule a one-on-one with me or anyone on my team, feel free to reach out. Our email address is square1@mymcpl.org. Today we're going to be talking about a tool that the library has that I think everyone who owns a business should know about. Whether or not you use it strictly to create a business plan that you might want to take in front of a bank or some other partner, or if you just use it for internal planning purposes, it's a great way to kind of assess your business situation and plan for the future. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this tool. It's called Plan Builder. It's a Gale database, and the way that you get to it is by going to Square One Small Business from our homepage, which is mymcpl.org. So if you click on Square One Small Business up at the top and then scroll about 3/4 of the way down the page, over right there's Browse Resource button. That'll take you to the full list of all of our business databases. If you would like to see all of the databases the library has, you can click A to Z list here or browse them by subject by clicking Browse Subject. So if you scroll about 3/4 of the way down the page, there's a link underlined called Plan Builder. Click on that, and then it'll ask you for your library card number. Ooh, let me get that again. And the first step is to create a free account. So you'll just go to Get Started and it will walk you through that process. But since I've already created one, I'm going to go ahead and sign into my account. So if you have questions at any time, feel free to put those in the comment section and I'll respond to them as soon as the video is over. Should only be a short presentation. I just want to introduce you to this resource, and then I will let you all ask some questions and hop on to the comment section to respond. So once you sign in, you have this dashboard that shows you 5 different sections that you could contribute to the business plan. The formal business plan is actually just number 4 here. It's using the lean business plan model, so I'll show you that first. So a lot of times if you download a template from the web on building a business plan, you'll see a lot of these same headings. So there's not a lot that's really different with the lean business plan template, but one of the great things about this template is that it will allow you to search for sample business plans. So if you click on that search for sample business plans, this is actually a pretty good place to get started, because you typically want to compare what you're doing to what a similar business is doing or a similar business model is doing. So I would encourage you to find a sample business plan from this Business Plans Handbook. It's a really simple process. You just click in this search within publication, type in a keyword, we'll do coffee, and then it brings up all of the business plans that have that keyword. So it's bringing me coffee roasters. It is also bringing me more coffee roasters, a coffee house, a coffee bean plant exporter. So these are all different business plans that reference coffee in some way. Probably the one that I would want to use is this coffee house if I'm going to open a coffee shop. So I would be able to look at this business plan from a real business. They've just changed the name to give them some anonymity. But this is a great way to get started on thinking about what you would want to include in your own business plan. So I encourage you as a first step to try and find a sample business plan that you might want to use as a reference point. And then once you've done that, you can go back to the lean business plan. And if you feel like jumping in right away to this formal plan, you can easily edit by clicking in the box and then clicking the purple button, edit company name, or whatever section you're in. It will walk you through each box. If you have a question, you can hover over the question bubble and it'll tell you what that box is looking for. Almost every page also has a guide me button that I highly encourage you to use, because it will help you think about the numbers that you might want to put in there, or help you think about something that you might not have considered. So these guide me buttons are really a great way to use this tool. But rather than jump into the business plan right away, what I would recommend is kind of working your way through these numbers in numerical order. They kind of go from most easy to most difficult. So the first step would be to create an entrepreneur profile. This is a step that a lot of times people leave out of their business plan, but many people want to know not only about your business, but who you are as a person, because a lot of times businesses fail not because of a bad business plan, but because the entrepreneur isn't in a good place to make the business plan work. So this is where you talk about why you wanted to get into the business, what you know how to do, what you love to do, what your resources are. This section you can get done with in usually about a day, because it's fairly easy to talk about yourself. Same kind of deal, you just click in the purple box and then it'll give you some questions to amplify this top one, so kind of expanding on this top question. And then it also gives you some prompts for something that you might want to put in your answer, as well as giving you an example of how somebody else might fill it out. So you just click in this white box down here, start typing, and then click Save Changes when you're done. Fairly simple. It's a great place to start because you can get this done fairly quickly, and then you've already got a fifth of the entire business plan done. So when you're done, you want to make sure you save your changes and then return to the dashboard. And the next step is to go into business ideation, which is using the lean canvas as the tool to walk you through that step. So this is the lean canvas is something that a lot of business schools are using now to help people create kind of the skeleton for their business plan. It breaks business down into these 9 core components, and it helps you think about every major aspect of the business without having to write the entire business plan. It's also a great way for somebody to get a quick idea for what you're wanting to do without having to read your entire 20-page business plan. They can just look at this one page and get a good sense for what you're wanting to do. So the example that they have is of a coffee shop, and I think this is great because if you're not sure what a particular box means, you can read what a coffee shop would put in here. So for instance, under unique value propositions, they say that they can price approximately the same as Starbucks. Their shop will offer convenience because they can walk to it easily from their place of business, and they plan to name their drinks after local landmarks for emotional appeal and uniqueness. So they have these unique value propositions that they are offering over their competitor, which is Starbucks. So they're easier to get to. They also have drinks named after local landmarks for emotional appeal and uniqueness. So really, you want to start with the first box because that will help you frame the rest of the worksheet. So you're going to start with the problem, and you just click the purple button again. It'll give you a list of questions to kind of expand on that idea of the problem you're solving. So a lot of times when businesses are first getting started, they like to think of their product or service as the thing that they're selling their customers on, when in reality you're selling your customers on a problem that you can solve for them. So this is a really good way of framing your business at the early stages, thinking about a problem that you're solving for your customers. And it's even better if you can solve a headache problem versus or a migraine problem versus a headache problem. So if it's a migraine problem, it's something that they need to get solved right away. And they'll look for any sort of solution to that problem that they can. If it's a headache problem, they may or may not take you up on your solution. They may suffer through it. They may find something else. But those migraine problems, people want to get them solved immediately. So if you can, try and find a migraine problem. And then, again, you just type in the white box and then save changes when you're done. The next step is to go into your customer segments. So for the coffee shop, this would be pedestrian traffic, and it would be primarily working age adults. And then in the summer, they would get more foot traffic than in the winter. So you kind of think about who are your customers in terms of what they do for a living, their age, where they work, how they get to you, that sort of thing. So a good place to look for help when filling out this section is under Where Do I Start? They have business ideation resources that I highly recommend you take a look at. I usually recommend that everyone I meet with read at least these 3 articles on doing a feasibility study, industry analysis, and marketing research. These are all crucial steps as you're planning for your business. And these are just little short articles from business encyclopedias, like this is the Encyclopedia of Small Business. Sometimes it will be from book chapters, or in some cases it'll just be an article from a journal. But these are great ways of learning about the sort of research that you might want to do as you get started. All of these are potentially useful, but I think these 3 are essential. So definitely check those out. So then we'll go back to the dashboard, and I won't go into too much depth with the break-even analysis and financial projections because those areas are a little bit more complicated. They're getting into the numbers. So I'll probably skip financial projections altogether today, but the break-even analysis is a good one to do even when you're just getting started out, because you want to know how long is it going to be before your money coming in is covering all of the expenses that you have. So that's your break-even point. So this helps you figure out how long it's going to take to reach that point, and you start by putting in all of your expenses. They have a great Guide Me button that I definitely recommend using because this section can get pretty tricky. So for instance, under payroll, a lot of times entrepreneurs forget, I need to pay myself a salary, and they will just, they won't take a fixed income. So it's a good idea to go ahead and plan for a salary for yourself. So if you paid yourself $60,000 per year and you paid 3 employees $40,000 per year, you would put $180,000 into this block. So just some ballpark numbers that you might use, and then they give you a estimate for what you might put under the growth year over year for that category. So if you're giving cost of living raises to your employees, 3% is a fairly typical rate to enter here. But they say if you want to be more aggressive and really reward your employees, you could give them 22% raises. So that's kind of the average and then the higher end percentage that you might put into this block. So I won't go through all of those, but walk you through box by box, and each row will have helpful resources on that particular category. So payroll will have an article on employee payroll and deductions that takes you to kind of a walkthrough on how to think about that. So a lot of this stuff, even if you have no idea what it is initially, as long as you read the helpful resources, usually you can get a good idea for what they're looking for there. So the expenses you're going to work through first. Most of them are fairly straightforward. And in some cases you may not have any expense in that category, and that's okay. But once you get done with the expenses tab, you're going to move over to costs of goods sold. And this is where you talk about either the products you're selling or the services that you're offering. So they give you two examples of determining cost up here. Basically, you're putting in the cost of that particular product or service to you, and then what you're selling it for, which will help you determine the profit margin on that particular item. So if you're doing a service business and you're sending a service technician out, and that costs you $17 per hour in labor and $3 in transportation expenses, your cost would be $20. So you would want to make sure you're selling that service for at least $20 because otherwise you're losing money on it. And you want to be as specific as you can under these product or services, so break them up into as many different categories as is feasible, or that makes sense. So they give you an example of making a dinner meal cost me $5 in materials and $3 in labor, and so my cost would be $8. So if you had a restaurant, more than likely you're going to have different dinner meals that cost different prices. So I would encourage you to put each item on your menu or each entree in your menu under the product or service, rather than just putting it under like a dinner category that's an average of all of your prices for dinner entrees, because you really want to see in detail how each item contributes to your profit margin. So moving on from cost of goods sold, you go into capital. And this is where you talk about any equity or debt that the company has. So if you invest money out of your own pocket, that's going to go under equity. If you have investors, that's also going to go under equity. If you take loans from the bank or from friends and family or anywhere else, that's going to go under debt. So again, use the Guide Me button. It will help a lot in this section, and then check out some of the helpful resources here as well. This section typically is a little bit tricky for folks if they're not super comfortable with numbers or with finances. So if this trips you up, we are definitely here to help walk you through this stuff. So feel free to reach out. And then fourth step is to go into sales. So this is where you are trying to estimate what your sales are going to be like. And they tell you that for a stable business, 2 to 3% year-over-year growth is fairly typical. But if you're a fast, new growing business, you might put in 50 to 75%. So yeah, this is a difficult one to do because unless you've already got some sales, it may be difficult to know what your future sales are going to look like. But sometimes just putting in numbers here and then adjusting them later on is a good way of going about it, because sometimes you just need to put any number in there to really wrap your mind around what a realistic number would look like. So just throw in your best guess, or even what you hope to make, even if it's not necessarily the most realistic number. And then you can always adjust those numbers later on down the line. So when you're done, you get this report that's called your break-even analysis, and it tells you at what point your, like I said, money coming in is covering your expenses, which is your break-even point. And from there, any money coming in is profit. It also will help you to determine your cash on hand. So if that cash on hand dips below your operating costs at any point, that's going to mean you're in trouble, because you can't do things like pay bills or pay your employees. So you want to make sure that that cash on hand doesn't get below your operating costs at any time. The helpful resources, also another section to take a look at to help you with this part. But fairly straightforward. When you're done, you just return to the dashboard. At any point, you can email this document to yourself or download it as a PDF or Word document. I would recommend doing the Word document, because then you can add pictures, you can change the font, that sort of thing. So this was my very quick introduction to Plan Builder. It's not something that I expect you to be able to do completely on your own, That's why I'm here to help you. We are meeting with folks, like I said, still online. So if you'd like to set up a one-on-one with me to walk you through this in more depth, feel free to reach out, and we'll set up a Skype webinar. So that is it for my presentation. I will hop on the comments now to answer any questions you have. Thank you for joining me. Good luck in starting your business and planning for your business. Be safe out there.